And we are live. Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to She Built It Boss Lady Chronicles. I am Sharita Gaskins-Tillett. I am your host, and I am super excited to bring you tonight's episode. But while we wait for folks to come in, I just want to remind you to say hi in the comments. If you're watching us live, let us know where you're watching us from. Please, if you have questions for our guests or questions for me, put them in the chat. We're happy to answer questions if you're watching the replay #replay, and I still invite you to leave your questions in the chat. Also, just a reminder, registration is still open for a few more days for A Weekend for Me, the premier wellness experience for professional women, taking place in Jamaica, June 20th to the 24th. So if you have not had an opportunity yet to attend A Weekend for Me, you are missing a real treat. I would encourage you to attend this one because it is going to be phenomenal. The focus for this retreat is self-love and self-worth. And so many women struggle with this concept. And I think it's time that we addressed it. So, www.aweekendforme.com. Check it out. I would love to host you. Speaking of hosting, I am also hosting this lovely guest tonight. We have joining us Nicole Bernard, and I'm just going to get her bio. Nicole's marketing career began with Microsoft over 18 years ago. And since that time, she has owned and operated two successful businesses, as well as worked with other major brands, including Remax and Venus Williams. She also hosts a popular podcast, Bubbles and Biz. Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'm really excited to talk with you and to share your story with our audience. So let's jump right in. Tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. No, I didn't think I would be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work in like corporate and wear cute clothes and heels. So that's where I thought I was going. But instead of that, I actually became a farm owner with my husband. We had an organic farm, and we also brewed our own beer. So we ran that. We left New Orleans in like 2005 after we graduated from college and moved up to the Northwest in 2007 and started the farm. Did that for 7 years, and it was really neat, really fun. But we ended up causing too much traffic, like literally, to our little farm, and our neighbors weren't as excited. So we ended up closing our doors after kind of a pretty lengthy little legal battle, but did all the marketing for that. My degree is in marketing. And so after that, worked at a few marketing agencies for a few years and then branched out on my own in 2016. And I've had my own marketing agency since then.
Okay, so I want to back up because you mentioned New Orleans. Did you grow up in New Orleans? Okay, so how does a New Orleans girl end up with a farm? There has to be a story there.
Yes, there is. Okay, so I was born up here in the Northwest in Vancouver, Washington, but we moved down to New Orleans when I was in 6th grade. So I spent like the majority of my life there. Well, it's probably about half and half now. And my parents moved back here in 2005, and so like I said, they moved like right before Katrina hit, and we stayed for a few years, but then ended up coming up here because it's fun being a place that has all the seasons. And my husband did a lot of renovations after Katrina, and he was ready for a fresh start. So we bought a farm. Thought it was a great idea. Didn't have kids yet, so we had all kinds of energy.
So what did you know about running a farm?
Oh, nothing. Like absolutely nothing.
Honestly, I think that's a pretty bold move. To go from living in a city to owning a farm. I was going to say living on a farm, but owning a farm. Tell us a little bit more about the farm. What did you grow things? I know you mentioned the brewery, but did you grow things? Did you have livestock? What did you do?
Yeah, so we grew about 40 different varieties of vegetables. And so we did a CSA, so community supported agriculture, where people would sign up, and get a box every week. We did 2 to 3 different farmers markets. So we did that for the first few years. In addition to that, I started baking bread. So I would bake like 40 loaves a weekend of artisan bread. They'd get up at like 3 on a Saturday morning and just start baking. Looking back, it's kind of like insane. But And then a few years into it, we added the microbrewery because we were home brewers. So we just brewed our own beer. But it was nice because we're like, well, we need a winter income because it's so seasonal up here in the Northwest. And so that's how we added the brewery into that. And so we had the brewery aspect of it for about 3 years.
So that's actually pretty exciting, because you mentioned your foray into corporate, but it's almost like you started as an entrepreneur and then got back to it. Is that fair?
Yeah. So right when I finished LSU, that's when I started working with Microsoft. It was like my senior year. I was an intern,
okay.
And it was so cool. They flew us up from Baton Rouge to their campus up here in Seattle. We stayed there for like 4 days, taught us all this marketing stuff. That's where I really fell in love with marketing. And then I ended up graduating, and then I went and worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in their management program. And I was there for about a year and a half. And then, like I said, I had just finished like their management program, and I got my real estate license. And my husband had gone on, wasn't my husband at that point. But he had gone on a trip to Alaska and was like, hey, it's really pretty up here. I want to move. And I was like, I'm not moving to Alaska, but I will move to where my parents moved.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty hardy, but I don't think I'm Alaska hardy. So.
Right. Not many are.
I know, exactly. So yeah, so that's how we ended up here in the Northwest.
Okay. All right. And so you had the farm, and then you said that you had an issue with the neighbors. So you no longer have the farm.
Nope. Yeah. It was we got the cease and desist on my husband's birthday, actually, in
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, happy birthday. 2015. Yeah. And that was it. So May. And then we went through the summer. They actually like rescinded it, let us keep going through the summer while we went through this whole legal battle. And we had a public hearing in October of that year, and they had lawyers come out from Portland and Vancouver. Ended up, there was like a zoning issue that we hadn't caught, so essentially it was our fault. But and everything happens for a reason. But our kids were super little at the time. Felt like the rug had been pulled out from underneath us. Ended up going to work in a marketing agency from there because that's what I knew how to do. So I did all the marketing for the farm.
So did you keep living there, or did you move?
We actually went back to New Orleans for a little bit, and we were going to sell it, and then it didn't sell, and we came back up. But then we ended up selling the farm in 2017. We still live in the area, but not in the same town. But yeah, we ended up selling it because it was 4.5 acres, and at that point, we had kind of, it just didn't feel like we weren't farming it at that point. And so it just felt like the time was right to get rid of it.
Yeah. That's really a lot of upheaval is the word that's in my head. I don't know if that's how it felt to you. But to take little kids and move them from a farm in the Pacific Northwest back down to New Orleans and then back up to the Pacific Northwest. That just seems like a lot. And like you must be very resilient.
Yeah, and I think because they were so little at the time and there was just so much going on, I never really stopped, you know what I mean, to kind of think about it. We just kind of like tried to keep going. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's the way that a lot of mothers are. When you're in that stage with the little kids, life is kind of on autopilot a lot of the time. So how did you get off autopilot, and how did you end up where you are now?
Yeah. So unfortunately, about a year and a half after that, my dad passed away, and that was another big. It happened very quickly, and that is probably what jolted me out of autopilot because it was such a shock. And got me, really start thinking about what's really, really important. I mean, I always knew what was important in life, but when like an event like that happens, it really makes you kind of stop and think.
Yes.
And that is kind of what catapulted me back into entrepreneurship because I was like, life really is short. My dad had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. He tried a few times, but he was in banking and finance and never quite got it. And I was like, he passed away at 71, like on sick days because that's how quickly it went. I was like, life, I want to go for it. Like, I'm going to go for it. So that was kind of one of the things that catapulted me to where I am now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that makes sense. A lot of people, you make the mistake of thinking you have more time, or that you have an
Hmm.
endless supply of time, that you'll try something one day, or you'll consider it one day, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is not promised, and I applaud you for going after your dreams. So
Yeah.
I usually ask this question of my guests. First of all, what do you consider when you hear the term boss lady? What does that mean to you? What's a boss lady to you?
Yeah. I think it's funny. I think it's changed over the years because I used to like immediately an image of like, almost like a corporate lady dressed to the nines, like just
Yeah.
owning it, kind of like, but
Yeah.
now
The cute
I
clothes you
think,
wanted to wear,
yes,
right?
exactly. I was still like, I always wanted and like a Louis Vuitton. But yeah, now I think of somebody who is happy, is balanced, is, doing what they love, that they're, spending time with the people that they love. They're making a difference. Not necessarily doesn't really matter what she's wearing anymore, but somebody
Yeah.
that is content and moving and, is just making a difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I like that. And then do you feel that you were born a boss lady, or did you have to develop boss lady characteristics?
Yeah, I don't think I was born a boss lady. I was always really quiet. I had a mullet until like 7, which is probably why I didn't talk to anyone. So I was just, very introverted. I also lived not on a farm, but we had like 6 horses and dogs and everything, and like those were my best friends. And I don't know, I've
Yeah.
just always been quiet and kind of shy. Not that boss ladies have to be big and loud or anything like
Right.
that,
Sure.
but I do think there is an aspect, and it might come with time too, of growing older, of kind of understanding your value and your worth, and creating boundaries, and again, just kind of going after it. But I again kind of went through a lot of my life with not really thinking about things like that until the past 8 years or so. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's definitely something that I've learned along the way.
Okay. And so since you had to learn it, you said, you talked about boundaries and, living authentically and all of those kinds of things. Were there certain actions, activities that you took to help you along the way? Because I too am an introvert, introverted introvert. And I know it took a lot of work for me to be on here talking to you today, to make videos online and all of those kinds of things.
Same, yes.
And so, yeah, so what was your personal development? What has your personal development journey been like?
Yeah. Again, I started. So I've always been active, and I was a collegiate athlete. Like I played soccer my entire life, but that kind of was 20 something years ago. What I kind of started doing after my dad passed away was running. I got into running. It was a way for me to grieve. Because
Hmm,
being again also so introverted, I didn't really like crying
sure.
in front of anyone, so I kind of run and cry and listen to music. And then as that kind of kept going, I started listening to audiobooks. So I switched out like my old school
Mm,
rap for audiobooks,
yeah, yeah.
and just kind of started diving into things like like Napoleon Hill. I think Think and Grow Rich was one of the first ones that I listened to.
Uh-huh.
Listened to all of his. Right now I'm on uh, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. So just digging into all of these kind of books that kind of have shown me, like our minds and everything are just so a lot more powerful than I realized in ways that I didn't
Yeah.
realize. And so it's been really, really interesting. I've learned a lot. And so, yeah, just again, a lot of like self worth and, things like that too have really kind of come into play as well.
So what's one of the biggest lessons that you've taken away from that journey? You said you talked about your mind. What's one of the biggest lessons you think?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones in looking back on everything, just we're a lot stronger, I think, than we realize, and things
Mhm.
end up working out a lot differently than we might have thought. Like we're in a much better place now than we were when we had the farm, and my husband's not working 80 hours a week in a field. I don't even know if we could do it anymore at this point. But at that
Yeah.
point, at that time, it was just like, well, what do we do now? So I've found that movement, like whether it's just, a little bit, like continuing to go with it, even if you go backwards for a hot second, you will eventually, find your way forward again. So yeah.
So staying in momentum, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. And I think too that it's just so it can be disorienting to to
Yeah.
to be trying to figure your life out, right? Um,
Yeah.
what's my next move? Where can I go? What can I do? But the at the end of the day, we are more powerful than we realize. Often we stay in a box or in a job or in a relationship or whatever because we feel like that's all we can do.
Hmm.
And so, I admire you for branching out and doing other things. So tell me about the marketing piece, because now you have your own marketing company.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that, like what your focus is, who you serve, because you talk about helping people. So tell me a little bit about
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. So for the longest time, since I started my agency in 2016, I've always done for you services. So businesses that either don't have the team or the knowledge or the desire. Some people really hate marketing. I didn't know that like when I first started. So whether if they don't want to do it, like me and my team will take it over. And because so many, like all of our businesses are so different, that's what I really love to dive into, and that's a lot of what I learned at
Mm,
Microsoft so long ago. Taking that strategy and that creativity and putting it, to that unique and special business is what really drives results. So yeah, we do a variety of services. Social media, search engine optimization. I was having a conversation this morning with someone about starting to do SEO for AI, which it's a
mm,
whole different kind of ball game, but
okay.
that's where we're headed. Which is another reason why I love marketing, because it does evolve, and so there's always something to learn, which I could see how that would be frustrating. But so things like that. So I've done services for a long time, and then even before the pandemic, I was kind of branching into consulting and coaching. I know the pandemic, that's why I kind of reference it, a flood of kind of seems like coaches came online.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, like we were talking before, like mentorship or just help. I like to help people. I like to teach them so they can do it themselves. So I also offer kind of like a done with you and done for you. So I'm helping you with like, different PR opportunities and getting social media templates from my team, but you're executing, you're putting your voice, you're doing a lot of the work, but you understand why you're doing it. And you get really efficient, and it's a lot more effective. So that's been really fun, to help business owners just, empower themselves to be able to do it.
Hmm. Okay, so now Bubbles and Biz. You have a podcast, right? Bubbles and Biz.
Hmm.
First of all,
Hmm.
where'd you get the name? And tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even remember how I came with the name. I think I don't like, because I started it 5 years ago. I was pretty, lonely. Entrepreneurship is, can be kind of
Yes.
lonely. Yeah, there's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and as much as I like talking to my husband and my kids, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's great." So it was like I want to find a
Yeah.
community that I can, have a glass of champagne with, and just talk about things. Like maybe I'm not as crazy as I feel sometimes.
Right.
That's kind of how that came out. Yeah, just wanting to have a community, and 5 years later, I've had amazing conversations like with you and people from New Zealand, and I mean, so many cool stories and cool people doing amazing things. So
So tell me how the community has impacted your journey. Because I know for me, my community, I tried to do things alone for a really long time, and
yeah.
it just,
Mhm.
did not work well. And once I found my tribe, that really, put things on the fast track, because you had people
Mhm.
to kind of validate, or for me, I had people to validate how I was feeling and to support me, and I didn't feel so crazy, because
Yes.
not
Mhm.
everybody thinks like this.
Right. No, yeah. I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
community has been huge. The like you said, the support, whether it's bouncing ideas off of people or getting referrals from people or sending referrals. I love doing that too. Accountability. Like I've had a few
yeah,
different friends that are accountable for over the last few years, and that's such a big difference because we are our own boss now. So if you're like, I don't feel like doing that, but knowing that you have
yeah.
someone that's kind of like rooting you on and going to hold you accountable, that's been huge.
Yeah. So what is your favorite part of marketing?
Oh yeah. Like I mentioned, I just really love. So it's so weird, and I feel like I have two different types of brains. Like, because I can either be like really creative or really analytical, and so it's kind of funny
Mm,
trying to like
okay.
get them together because numbers can tell us a huge, like a really big story, and then the creativity of the storytelling and everything like that. So I love that. Like, what's your problem? What are we trying to solve? Who are your people? And then figuring out the best avenues, but then like the strategy and creativity blended together. That's
Yeah.
my favorite part.
Yeah. Now, do you do the graphics and all that kind of stuff too, or is it more developing the messaging?
It's a lot of the messaging. So I have a graphic designer on my team. He's amazing. I also have a writer who does a lot of the content,
Oh,
a
okay.
web developer too. So I have a few people doing the thing, like the some of the behind the scenes things, but a lot of the like optimization and the best practices and things still like that all still goes through me. But yeah, I don't do a lot of the designing. So I do a lot of the strategy and the execution.
Okay. So you mentioned AI, and I know that AI is huge in so many industries right now. I mean, as a physician, I know that now we're using AI sometimes to transcribe our office visits. So there's an
Mm-hmm.
actual device that's listening to your office visit and recording, the content of the visit. So
Yeah, I
how
do
do you
marketing
think?
for one of those scribes.
Okay, all right, yeah. So how do you see AI changing the marketing industry?
Oh, well, I think we've already seen changes. I think a lot of people are relying heavily on AI, and I actually do think that'll come back around because I think people can tell when it's AI generated.
Mhm.
I do think it can be really helpful in certain things, but I think in the marketing aspect, just completely letting AI do it probably isn't the best idea. But it is definitely going to change how search is that like people are apparently not even going to Google anymore. They're just going straight to AI for their
Oh, wow.
questions and like they're bypassing Google. So that's gonna be interesting. I don't know if you saw the Instagram update today. There's now an AI assistant when you go to
Oh,
search.
no, I think I did see something about Meta having an AI
Mm-hmm.
assistant. I noticed that a few days ago.
Yeah. And so it'll start to, that particular agent, they call them, will start to understand your behaviors and what you're searching
Yes.
for and things like that. So that's going to tailor how we find things on social and again just anywhere really. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I guess they just came out with a new version today. The conversation I had this morning, the guys were talking all about AI. Like they created a song really quickly. I guess you can take a picture like of they. This was an example. They said you can take a picture of your fridge and it'll see what groceries are in there, and you can ask it to tell you what meal could be prepared with that, and it'll come up with
Wow.
different yeah meal options,
Wow.
and then it can also, if you don't have some of the things, it'll create like the grocery list for you right there. It's like, oh, wow.
Wow. Does it
So,
give the recipe and everything too? I'm sure it
yep.
does.
Yep.
Interesting. So what are some other
hmm
that's something I never thought about. What are some other unique uses?
Yeah. So the other one was, like I said, somebody also said, uh, they asked it to come up with a cocktail recipe, and it
Okay.
asked for like what parameters. And since I was the only one from Oregon on the call, he said make it Oregon themed. So it did come up with a very Oregonian theme to it. It was like
Okay.
um, it was like a coffee martini with like a specific creamery out here, Marion
Okay.
berries, and a few other things. So just very tailored towards Oregon, and it was in like 30 seconds that he asked it to do it, and it spit it out. You can come up with workout plans, they were saying, and that guy also created a song. You just tell it you want your song to be about, and it'll get the the music and write the lyrics for you. It's like I don't
Wow.
know what it can't do. Like,
Right. Yeah. Sounds like it. I mean, it's exciting and interesting, but also a little bit scary.
yeah,
Because I know that there's some industries where people are getting concerned that AI will replace people.
mm-hmm. Yep.
But I would think for, an industry like yours with marketing, I think that's so individualized and so personalized, and that,
Mhm.
by design, because you
Right.
have to make a particular client's, work stand out. I can't
Yeah.
imagine, that I mean, it's a tool, but it's not, I can't imagine that it would replace you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it'll be neat too because I think it can save people a lot of time. I've heard that
Hmm.
as well too, whether like taking videos and creating clips or, just all of these crazy things. It'll just create social media posts for you. You can put it through, I can't remember the name of the program. But yeah, it'll always have to have, I would think, at least at this point, like a human eye on it, editing it, because
Yeah,
it's that branding, that messaging, that relationship that I don't
sure.
think AI can
Well, and
do.
it can't capture your voice. I mean, I
Yeah.
use it some, like if I have writer's block, I
Yeah.
might say, give me this is what I'm looking for. Give me 5 potential topics, or,
Hmm.
or something like that. And so it might give me something that I wasn't necessarily thinking about. And so it's like, oh yeah, I
Right.
could talk about X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
But I
Totally.
don't use it for, it's not my voice.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't. There's a human element that it just can't capture.
Right, right. So you've been in corporate America. You're now an entrepreneur. What is the most positive difference that you see? And I guess I'm thinking more even about your family life, and maybe even in terms of your self-care and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Um, yeah, what I do love the most, like I said, I was going through kind of my calendar today, just realizing how quickly my kids will be out of school for summer. I think that's one of the biggest ones for me is, being able to, and that maybe that people, since the pandemic, remote working people, it's a lot more flexible now, but just having that freedom to be able to, I'll be done by 12:30, like in the summer, and then we can
Yeah,
go and have a bunch of adventures. Like right now I'm done usually by the time they're home from school at 3. So that's been the biggest thing for me. Just because again, like I said, life goes by fast, and so just being able to
yes.
squeeze them, and my daughter will be 14 already this summer. It seems like she was a
Wow,
baby yesterday, so
I
just
understand.
trying to cherish, yeah, cherish all that. That's probably the biggest one for me.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. So now tell us, if people are interested in working with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I was just updating my website today. nb.marketing, so like Nicole Bernard. And
Mhm.
there's no .com. That confuses people sometimes. So just
Okay.
nb.marketing. That's got all of the kind of little things I offer, whether it's done for you services or the done with you option I was talking about. You can find the podcast there. I write for Entrepreneur. There's a link to those articles on there as well. So yeah,
Oh,
it's all
okay.
there.
Okay. And like I said, what do you do for your own self-care? How do you maintain it?
Um, some days are better than others.
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody's
Yeah,
perfect, but
right. Yeah. I think just again realizing the importance of it. I think for the longest time, and I think might come with age as well. Just realizing it's okay to slow down, and just these little things. I just do kind of little things, like even like the little frownies on my forehead, and I remember to like put those on at night. I'm like, oh, good job. And running. I try to move every day. Listen to something that'll help with sometimes I'll still listen to music when I'm like, I really don't feel like running. Sometimes you just need some good rap to get you through it. But, just those little things that all kind of add up have worked for me.
Who's your favorite rap artist? You've mentioned rap a couple of times. Who's your favorite artist?
Well, I like to listen to a lot of the old New Orleans stuff. I mean, so just like
Ah,
Juvenile,
okay. I
Big
probably don't know them
Timers,
then.
and oh yeah, probably. Well, I was listening to Tupac yesterday, so I
Okay,
do
I
listen
know
to
Tupac.
yeah, a
Now,
wide
I think
variety. Yeah.
when we talked earlier, you talked about what did you tell me about? 48 miles in 48 hours. What's that about?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a man named David Goggins?
I haven't.
Okay, you should Google him. He's got 2 books. They're amazing. He was a Navy SEAL and just came up in a really abusive
I did
home.
hear about him. Okay, yeah, yeah, I remember
Uh,
hearing about
he's
him.
yeah. Okay. So he's amazing, and his books are phenomenal. It's his challenge. Like he came up with it a few years ago. And so the first time I did it, my friend asked me, I was like, "You are out of your mind. Like,
So
there's
just
no
running, biking,
it's
what?
running. It's usually
Okay.
running. But his whole
Okay.
thing is like, if you're not a runner, do something. Like, it's the whole point of like making yourself do something because you run or do whatever you want at like midnight, 4 in the morning, 8. You do it 12 times over 48
Okay.
hours. So your body is just like, what is going on? So it's more mental.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that's the. I mean, yes, your body hurts, but it's more of a mental game of doing it. And I think I just did it in early March. So I think I've done it 4 times.
Wow.
And
It's
it's
an
great.
annual thing?
Yeah, he does it every year in March. And then I've done it twice, like a second time of the year. Just I don't know why, but I just did.
So
Yeah.
what do you find the benefits to be for you? Because you mentioned that it's, kind of shocks your body, but it's more of a mental thing. So what are the benefits of that?
Yeah. Again, just making you realize that you really can do hard things,
Mm,
even when
mhm.
you think you can't. Like the first time I did it, the last 2 runs were just brutal because my body was just it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're taking that step, like you're getting up, you're going, you're proving to yourself that you show up even if it's not like 100%. Like you're still showing up and you're getting it done. And yeah, the after the first time I finished it was just such a mental thing that was just really
Yeah.
really helpful.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening here on the East Coast, this afternoon there on the West Coast. Um, thank you for the work that you do to help to bring other people's businesses to life.
Mm.
That's really that because that's a weak spot for me. I'm not a marketer by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think I'm very creative. So
Oh, thank
I admire people who are. So
Yeah,
thank you
no.
for all you do.
Oh, thank you. No, you are creative. You're putting together amazing retreats and trips that are
Okay,
so
yeah,
needed.
I'm
I would,
creative in that way, right?
yeah.
Well, I guess I'm talking more like the visual arts kind
Oh,
of
gotcha. Okay.
kind of thing. And then, even the storytelling piece can get me sometimes, to tell it in a more compelling way, not
Yeah.
just a basic way, something that's going to draw people in and distinguish the story from other things.
That is hard. It really is.
Yeah. So like I said, I admire people who can do that, and I appreciate that you exist and that you
Oh,
and that you help and mentor those of us
thank
who
you.
struggle.
Oh.
Are there any other words of wisdom that you want to leave with our boss ladies before we depart tonight?
Um, no, just know that you're doing a great job. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially as boss ladies, we're really hard on ourselves. So, just that little reminder that we are doing things, we are moving, and
Yeah,
like we're doing a lot better than we think we might be. So keep it up.
yeah, you're right. So that actually brings me to one last question. How do you celebrate your wins?
Um,
Do you celebrate your wins?
I know. I was like, I don't think. Well, we do have like we'll go out to eat. Like, well, I mean, sometimes we'll go anyway, but when I get a new client or a new consulting client, that'll be kind of like a fun big deal that me and the kids and my husband go out and just make like kind of a bigger night of it, not just like a Friday
Yeah.
night burger. So that's kind of how we do it, which has been really
Okay. I was just curious because you talked about not recognizing that we're doing well, and I think part of that comes from not cataloging our wins and not taking time to celebrate them.
No, you're right.
You know,
It's
even
true.
the small wins, because our brains play tricks on us, and will have us think that nothing is going right, everything is going
Yes.
wrong, because that's just kind of the
Hmm.
way we're made. But yeah, so that's great. I love that you celebrate with your family. So again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you all for watching. Check Nicole out. Let's see, what did you tell me it was? NB dot marketing.
Marketing. Yes, good job.
There we go. MV dot marketing. So and all of that will be in the chat. So thanks to Nicole. We'll see you all next week. Take care, and don't forget
Thanks for having me.
registration. Oh, thank you so much for coming. Registration is still open for A Weekend for Me, www.aweekendforme.com. There are still a few spots remaining. I would love for one of those to be yours. Take care and have a great night.